The cold marble floors gleamed under the gallery's pristine lighting, reflecting the works of art meticulously arranged along the white walls. Veronica Hale, the gallery's owner, stood at the center of the room, her sharp eyes scanning for potential buyers as she sipped her espresso. She radiated sophistication, her tailored suit and subtle diamond jewelry complementing her aura of authority. That morning, Marcus Wright walked into Hale's fine arts gallery with a hopeful heart. Dressed simply in a plain shirt and jeans, with a messenger bag slung over his shoulder, Marcus exuded quiet confidence. His dark skin glowed under the lights, and his deep brown eyes reflected years of resilience. "Good morning," Marcus greeted as he approached Veronica. Veronica's gaze barely flickered in his direction before her lips curled into a faint smirk. "Good morning," she replied coolly, already dismissing him. Her eyes scanned his attire, the faint paint stains on his fingertips, and the well-worn sneakers he wore. Marcus hesitated, sensing her judgment but choosing to press on. "I'm an artist, and I wanted to see if you'd be interested in viewing my work. I think it could be a good fit for your gallery." Veronica raised an eyebrow, taking a deliberate sip of her espresso. "I see. And where have you exhibited before?" "I've had a few local showings," Marcus replied, his voice steady. "Small venues, mostly, but my pieces have been well received. I think they'd resonate with your clientele." Her laugh was soft but biting, cutting through the air like the crack of a whip. "Local showings? Mr. Wright." "Marcus Wright." "Mr. Wright," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "This gallery deals with established artists, those with a certain pedigree, if you will. Collectors come here for investment pieces, not amateur experiments." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he refused to let her dismissive tone deter him. "With respect, Ms. Hale, art isn't about pedigree. It's about emotion, connection, and perspective. My work speaks to people." Veronica tilted her head, her smile widening as if she were humoring a child. "How charming. Unfortunately, we're not looking for—" "Maybe you could take a look first," Marcus interjected, unzipping his bag and carefully pulling out a canvas. The piece he revealed was a breathtaking abstraction, vibrant hues intertwining with bold strokes that seemed to pulse with life. The painting told a story of struggle, hope, and triumph, its layers inviting the viewer to look deeper. For a brief moment, Veronica's composure faltered. Her eyes lingered on the painting, captivated despite herself. But the flicker of interest quickly disappeared, replaced by her practiced mask of disinterest. "It's colorful," she said dismissively. "But it's not the sort of thing my clients are looking for. I suggest you try one of those trendy pop-up markets. They might appreciate this kind of street art." Marcus finished, his voice sharp now. Veronica shrugged, unbothered. "If you like." The words stung, but Marcus remained composed. He returned the painting to his bag, his movements slow and deliberate. "Thank you for your time," he said, his tone polite but firm. Veronica barely acknowledged his departure, already turning her attention to a well-dressed couple entering the gallery. As Marcus walked out onto the bustling city street, the sting of rejection faded, replaced by a steely determination. He had faced worse than Veronica Hale's arrogance, and he knew his worth. What she saw as street art was earning recognition elsewhere, and he was just getting started. Marcus Wright sat in his tiny apartment, the smell of fresh paint mingling with the aroma of strong coffee brewing in the corner. The space was modest but full of life, canvases leaned against every wall, each one a vibrant tapestry of color and emotion. This was where his journey had begun, and where he'd learned to pour his soul onto the canvas. Marcus hadn't always been an artist. He grew up in a struggling neighborhood where opportunities were scarce, and dreams were often sacrificed to survival. His mother worked tirelessly to support him and his siblings, her hands worn from years of labor. She used to say, "If you can't find beauty in the world, Marcus, create it yourself." Her words became his guiding light. As a child, Marcus drew on scraps of paper and painted on cardboard boxes he found in alleyways. His early works were crude but full of passion, capturing the struggles and triumphs of his community. Art became his escape, a way to process the pain of losing friends to violence, the frustration of systemic injustice, and the joy of small victories. Over time, his skill sharpened, and his style began to emerge, bold, unapologetic, and deeply personal. The breakthrough moment. One evening, Marcus found himself at a small community exhibit organized by a local nonprofit. It wasn't a glamorous event, held in a school gymnasium with folding chairs and makeshift lighting, but it was a chance to showcase his work. The turnout was modest, mostly friends and family of the participating artists. Marcus's paintings hung on a makeshift display board, their colors vivid even under the dim lighting. He hadn't sold a single piece yet, but he remained hopeful. Then she appeared. Claire Devereaux, a renowned art critic with a reputation for discovering hidden talent, wandered through the exhibit. She wasn't supposed to be there, her assistant had dragged her along after a last-minute cancellation, but something about the raw energy of the event intrigued her. When Claire reached Marcus's section, she froze. His paintings seemed to leap off the walls, their stories gripping her in a way she hadn't felt in years. One piece, in particular, caught her attention, a fiery composition titled Rise from Ashes. "Who created this?" Claire asked, her voice sharp with curiosity. Marcus stepped forward, nervously wiping his hands on his jeans. "That would be me." Claire studied him for a moment, then extended her hand. "You have talent, Mr. Wright. Talent the world needs to see. A new path opens." From that moment, Marcus's life changed. Claire introduced him to influential collectors and gallery owners who were eager to champion his work. She encouraged him to showcase his art on social media, where it quickly gained traction. Within months, Marcus's paintings were being featured in high-profile exhibits. Collectors clamored to own a piece of his soul-stirring art, and his once-empty bank account began to overflow. But Marcus never forgot his roots. He used his growing platform to highlight underrepresented voices in the art world, mentoring young artists from marginalized communities and donating portions of his earnings to community programs. Despite his success, Marcus remained humble. He knew the art world could be fickle, and he refused to let fame change his values. Instead, he focused on his craft, pouring his heart into every piece. A chance encounter. One day, as Marcus scrolled through an art forum, a name caught his eye: Hale's Fine Arts Gallery. Veronica Hale's gallery had fallen on hard times, her once loyal clientele now flocking to more progressive establishments. Marcus's lips curved into a wry smile. Life had a strange way of coming full circle. With a renewed sense of purpose, he began planning his next move. Veronica Hale might have dismissed him once, but she would soon learn the value of the artist she had underestimated. Veronica Hale stood in the middle of her gallery, her sharp heels clicking against the marble floor as she inspected the few pieces that remained unsold. The once vibrant space, which had been a beacon for affluent art enthusiasts, now seemed tired and stagnant. Sales had dwindled over the past few years, and the gallery's prestige had faded with them. Veronica prided herself on curating refined art, works that adhered to traditional techniques and appealed to her wealthy clientele. But the art world had changed. A new wave of artists, celebrated for their diversity and unconventional styles, was capturing the spotlight. Social media was buzzing with their names, while galleries like hers struggled to adapt. A growing problem. Veronica's troubles weren't solely external. Her inability to embrace change had alienated even her loyal customers. Artists she'd previously worked with moved on to more inclusive spaces, frustrated by her unwillingness to take risks or showcase fresh talent. Compounding her problems was the rise of a competitor gallery just a few blocks away. Unlike Hale's Fine Arts, this new space embraced cutting-edge art and amplified voices from underrepresented communities. It had quickly become the talk of the town, stealing clients and attention away from Veronica. Bills began to pile up, and Veronica found herself cutting corners to stay afloat. She laid off staff, reduced her marketing budget, and hosted fewer events. Despite her best efforts, the gallery's reputation continued to erode. Desperation sets in. On a particularly slow afternoon, Veronica stared at her computer screen, scrolling through emails from artists pitching their work. Most she ignored outright, deeming them amateurs. A notification popped up, an invitation to an exclusive art auction hosted by none other than the competitor gallery. Veronica's jaw tightened as she skimmed the details. The event promised to showcase works by emerging artists whose careers were already skyrocketing. She scoffed, dismissing the invitation as hype, but a seed of doubt lingered. What if she had been wrong to dismiss these new artists? What if she was being left behind? A flicker of hope. Her thoughts were interrupted by her assistant, Emily, entering the room with a clipboard. "Veronica, we need to talk about the budget," Emily said cautiously. "Not now," Veronica snapped. "What we need are better clients, not budget cuts." Emily hesitated before speaking again. "There's a new collector in town," she said. "He's been making waves, buying out entire collections, and even investing in galleries. Maybe we should reach out?" Veronica's interest was piqued, though she didn't show it. "Who is he?" "Marcus Wright," Emily replied. "He's an artist turned collector. His name is everywhere right now. Some of his paintings have sold for millions, and he's become a patron for emerging talent." Veronica froze, the name tugging at her memory. It couldn't be the same Marcus Wright she had dismissed years ago, could it? She quickly brushed off the thought. "Fine," Veronica said curtly. "If he's that influential, set up a meeting." The shadow of regret. As Emily left, Veronica leaned back in her chair, the weight of her declining gallery pressing heavily on her shoulders. She still believed in her vision, but doubt was beginning to creep in. What if she'd been too rigid? What if she had turned away artists who could have saved her gallery? Unbeknownst to her, Marcus Wright had already taken notice of her struggles. The young artist she had once belittled was now a force in the art world, and he had plans that would forever alter her future. Marcus Wright leaned back in his leather chair, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows of his new office. The city skyline stretched before him, a view that once felt unattainable. Now, as the owner of an influential gallery, Marcus had become a major player in the art world. On the desk, before him lay a portfolio of Veronica Hale's gallery. He had done his homework, analyzing her business model, clientele, and recent struggles. Her gallery, once a giant in the industry, was now a shadow of its former self. Marcus's lips curled into a subtle smile. He wasn't one to seek revenge, but the poetic justice of the situation wasn't lost on him. Veronica Hale had dismissed him, mocked his work, and written him off as an amateur. Now, he held the power to decide her future. A calculated move. Over the past year, Marcus had made strategic investments in galleries that celebrated diverse and unconventional artists. His network had grown exponentially, and his reputation as both an artist and a collector was unmatched. One of his most successful investments was a modern gallery just a few blocks away from Hale's Fine Arts. Under his guidance, it had become the go-to space for emerging talent, overshadowing Veronica's outdated establishment. Marcus had remained anonymous in his involvement, preferring to let the gallery's success speak for itself. But now, the time had come to step into the spotlight. Setting the stage. Marcus called his assistant, Leah, into the room. "Have we finalized the offer?" he asked. Leah nodded, handing him a document. "It's ready. If she accepts, we'll own her gallery outright." "Are you sure you want to do this?" Marcus glanced at the document, his eyes narrowing slightly. "It's not about owning her gallery," he said. "It's about sending a message. Artists like me deserve respect, and galleries like hers need to evolve or step aside." Leah smiled knowingly. "Understood. I've scheduled the meeting for tomorrow." "She doesn't know you're behind the offer." Marcus nodded. "Good. Let's keep it that way, for now." The meeting. The next day, Veronica sat in her gallery's conference room, nervously tapping her pen against the table. She had agreed to meet with a mysterious investor who had expressed interest in buying her gallery. The offer was generous, far more than she had expected, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this deal than met the eye. When the door opened, and Marcus Wright walked in, Veronica's expression froze. "You," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus smiled politely, extending a hand. "Good to see you again, Ms. Hale." Veronica didn't move, her mind racing. She remembered the young man she had dismissed years ago, the one whose work she had labeled as street art. Now, he stood before her, radiating confidence and success. "I see you remember me," Marcus said, his tone calm but firm. "It's funny how life works, isn't it?" Veronica finally found her voice. "You're the investor?" Marcus took a seat across from her. "I am. And I'm here to make you an offer." The power shift. Over the next hour, Marcus laid out his proposal. He would purchase Hale's Fine Arts Gallery and transform it into a space that celebrated emerging artists from all backgrounds. Veronica could remain involved, but only in a diminished capacity. As Marcus spoke, Veronica's facade began to crack. She realized the extent of her mistakes, the opportunities she had squandered, the talent she had ignored, and the relationships she had burned. I didn't know who you were back then," Veronica said finally, her voice tinged with regret. "That's the thing, Ms. Hale," Marcus replied. "You didn't care to know. And that's why your gallery is failing. Art isn't about status or pedigree. It's about connection, passion, and truth." Veronica nodded silently, unable to argue. Closing the deal. By the end of the meeting, Veronica agreed to the sale. The weight of her failure was heavy, but she knew she had no other choice. As Marcus walked out of the gallery, he felt a sense of closure. He hadn't set out to humiliate Veronica or seek revenge. This was about something bigger, reshaping the art world and giving a voice to those who had been silenced. The grand opening of the newly transformed gallery, now called Wright's Collective, was an event unlike any Veronica Hale had ever hosted. The once stiff atmosphere of the space had been replaced with vibrancy, warmth, and creativity. Walls once adorned with lifeless, formulaic art now showcased powerful pieces that told stories of struggle, triumph, and identity. Artists from diverse backgrounds mingled with collectors, critics, and guests. The energy in the room was electric, with everyone eager to celebrate the rebirth of the gallery. Marcus Wright, the man behind it all, stood near the entrance, greeting attendees with a calm confidence that belied the emotional weight of the night. Veronica Hale was there too, though in a much diminished role. She had agreed to stay on as a consultant during the transition, a concession Marcus had made to ensure a smooth handover. She lingered at the edge of the room, watching the transformation unfold with a mix of awe and regret. The moment of truth. Midway through the evening, Marcus took the stage to address the crowd. The room quieted as the spotlight illuminated him, his tailored suit and calm demeanor exuding authority. "Good evening, everyone," Marcus began, his voice steady. "Tonight isn't just about celebrating the opening of Wright's Collective. It's about recognizing the power of art to connect us, challenge us, and inspire change." The audience applauded, and Marcus continued. "This gallery is dedicated to the artists who have been overlooked, underestimated, and undervalued. I know what that feels like, because I've been there myself." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "I started my journey right here in this very gallery," Marcus said, his gaze sweeping the room. "Years ago, I walked through those doors with a portfolio of work that I'd poured my heart into. I wanted to share my vision with the world, but I was dismissed. Mocked. Told I didn't belong." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd as people glanced at Veronica, who stood frozen in the shadows. "But I didn't give up," Marcus continued. "I found my way, thanks to those who believed in me when others didn't. And now, I'm here, not as the young artist seeking validation, but as the owner of this gallery." The room erupted in applause. Marcus's story resonated deeply, inspiring both the artists and the guests. Veronica's reaction. Veronica's face was pale, her composure slipping as Marcus's words echoed in her mind. she realized, with painful clarity, that he was talking about her. She had been the gatekeeper who had dismissed him, the one who had failed to see his brilliance. When the applause subsided, Marcus looked directly at Veronica. His expression wasn't vengeful, but there was a quiet strength in his gaze. Art teaches us to grow, to learn from our mistakes, and to build something better, Marcus said. That's what this gallery stands for now, a second chance, not just for artists, but for all of us. The crowd cheered again, oblivious to the personal history being laid bare before them. The tables have turned. After the speech, Veronica approached Marcus hesitantly. The confident, unyielding gallery owner of the past now seemed humbled, her posture stooped under the weight of her regret. Marcus, she began, her voice trembling. I don't know what to say. I was wrong. I see that now. Marcus studied her for a moment before replying. It's not about what you say, Veronica. It's about what you do next. This gallery has a new purpose, and I hope you'll learn from it. Veronica nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. A new chapter begins. As the evening continued, Marcus mingled with guests, his heart lighter than it had been in years. He had reclaimed the space where he was once belittled and transformed it into a beacon of hope and opportunity. For Veronica, the night marked the beginning of a long journey of reflection and growth. She had been given a second chance, and while her role in the gallery was now minimal, she vowed to support its mission. Months passed since the grand opening of Wright's Collective. The gallery had grown into an influential hub for contemporary art, and Marcus's vision was becoming a reality. What had once been an establishment of privilege and exclusivity was now a platform for diverse voices, celebrated for its inclusivity and dedication to showcasing talent from every corner of the world. Marcus had transformed the gallery into a place where artists could thrive, regardless of their background or experience. The works on display were raw, powerful, and unfiltered, each piece carrying its own story, of struggle, perseverance, and triumph. Marcus had made it a priority to support underrepresented communities, offering mentorship and financial assistance to emerging artists. Despite the gallery's success, Marcus remained humble, refusing to let fame or fortune define him. He frequently visited the exhibitions, taking time to speak with the artists, hear their stories, and offer guidance when needed. Veronica's new role. Veronica Hale had been relegated to a lesser role in the gallery, her position now reduced to a consultant. Though the change stung at first, she had come to accept it as a necessary step in her personal and professional growth. Her once rigid, elitist views had crumbled under the weight of her own mistakes. She spent her days working behind the scenes, helping with administrative tasks, but also quietly observing the vibrant atmosphere that filled Wright's Collective. She had come to appreciate the diversity of voices and the fresh perspective that Marcus had brought to the art world. Veronica had also started attending workshops on art curation, diversity in the arts, and inclusive business practices. She had begun to understand that art was not just about what could be sold to the highest bidder, it was about the stories behind the works, the emotional connection they fostered, and the impact they had on society. A meeting of minds. One afternoon, as Veronica was reviewing a new artist's portfolio, she was called into Marcus's office. She had been expecting this. There had been talk of expanding the gallery's reach even further, perhaps opening new locations in other cities. When she entered his office, Marcus looked up from his desk, his usual calm demeanor giving way to a hint of excitement. "We're doing something different next month," he said. "A global exhibit that focuses on the intersection of culture, identity, and art. I want you to help curate it." Veronica blinked in surprise. "You're asking me to curate?" she asked, her voice betraying a mix of disbelief and gratitude. Marcus smiled. "You've learned a lot, Veronica. I can see the change in you. This isn't about giving you a second chance, it's about giving art the respect it deserves, and that means respecting you, too." For the first time in a long while, Veronica felt something she hadn't felt in years: pride. She had worked hard to earn Marcus's trust, and though the road had been difficult, she knew she was on the right path. A new legacy. The global exhibit was a resounding success, attracting attention from art collectors, critics, and curators around the world. Veronica played a key role in selecting the artists and curating the displays, and her work was widely praised. As the exhibit unfolded, it became clear that Wright's Collective was not just a gallery, it was a movement, reshaping the art world for future generations. Veronica's transformation was subtle, but profound. The arrogance that had once defined her was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence and deep respect for the artists whose work she now championed. She had learned that true success in the art world came not from exclusivity, but from embracing diversity, giving voice to the unheard, and always remaining open to new ideas. Marcus's vision realized. As the years went by, Wright's Collective continued to thrive. It became a beacon for new artists, a place where creativity and authenticity were valued above all else. The gallery's success wasn't measured by the price tags of the artworks it displayed, but by the impact it had on the lives of the artists and the communities it supported. Marcus's vision had transcended the walls of the gallery. He had become a mentor to countless young artists, inspiring them to follow their passions, no matter the obstacles. He had created a space where art was not just for the elite, but for everyone, a space where all voices could be heard. And for Veronica, the journey wasn't over. Every day was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to share the lessons she had learned. She had been given a second chance, a chance to redeem herself, to transform, and to respect the very art world she had once tried to control. As Marcus stood in the center of the gallery one evening, watching a new generation of artists showcasing their work, he couldn't help but smile. His journey had come full circle, from being a dismissed artist to becoming a respected figure in the art world. But perhaps the most important thing he had learned was that the true value of art was not in its price tag, but in its power to change lives, to tell stories, and to unite people from all walks of life. And as for Veronica, she had found her place in that world, a place where respect, humility, and the power of art could flourish together.